We are back answering your stimulus and also your tax-related questions with Mark Hensley from AARP North Carolina Triad Region, Kevin Robinson from Robinson Tax and Accounting, and Scott Braddock with Scott Braddock Financial. All right, this person is asking, Mark, where can you get help with taxes as a senior?
So AARP does offer the only free tax assistance program in the United States. I recommend that you contact your local senior center to see if they're serving as a drop-off spot. We are up and running. It is different than in past years because of social distancing. So just look up your senior center and give them a call for the closest location.
I know I just called the Greensboro Public Library and they had something like 600 people that they're helping all the way through April 3rd, and all of the appointments are booked. So there's lots of people who want help, and the one thing that she told me was go online for IRS Free File because there's lots of video tutorials that will walk you through that. So at this point, that seems to be like the only local thing that we can kind of help them with. Scott, this person is asking, I borrowed some money from my 401k last year. Will I be penalized for doing that on my taxes?
So I'm actually going to let Kevin answer this. I believe it would work the same as it would in a traditional year as far as the taxation goes, but let's make sure with Kevin.
If they had to basically someone tap the IRA in 2020 for COVID relief, for example, Tanya, then generally speaking, they would be taxed if it's a regular IRA on the distribution, but the CARES Act did allow them to forego the penalty if they're under age 59 and a half for COVID relief. So they could be taxed on it, but they would get the waiver for the early withdrawal penalty would take place for them for 2020. And basically they can have the option of paying the tax on that distribution up to 3 years if they choose to.
Okay, this person is asking, what is the last date that you should be receiving tax documents like investments or wage statements, things like that?
Well, generally most people, the W-2 should go out by the end of January, and 1099s along that time frame. I understand that a lot of the 1099s from the brokerage houses have until like February 15th time frame. They can request an extension until March 15th, is my understanding. Scott may have more information on that, but generally anywhere from January the 31st till February the 15th, things should be getting out in the mail to the taxpayers.
Well, we're on the same page with that, Kevin.
Okay. Mark, this person is saying, I heard that they were discussing people on Social Security getting a smaller amount of stimulus. Is that true?
No, this is really based on your income amount, and they have made, to my knowledge, no delineation between sources of income. So at this point, I've seen or read nothing about the source. It is truly the amount.
All right, and this person has got a follow-up. Do you have to have already filed your 2020 taxes to receive a third stimulus?
Well, that's a good question, but I guess it's similar to the first stimulus based on 2019 or 2018 return, but it may, the quicker they can get their 2020 return filed, obviously the better, and it could be based on that, and especially if their income is down, then maybe that in 2020 versus 19, that would help them. Plus, they would avoid identity theft the quicker they can file their 2020 return.
All right, and if you didn't have a good 2020, you might want to file really fast before the stimulus payment goes through, because it will be done then on your 2020 income versus your 2019. Hey, Scott, this person says, all right, where's all this stimulus money coming from anyway?
Well, I'll tell you where it's not coming from. It's not coming from taxation. A lot of folks believe that that's where the stimulus money is coming from. But, keep in mind, what we do is we run on a deficit here in this country. So we're spending more money than what we bring in. So the quick overview here is whenever we pass a bill, we're going to let the Treasury go ahead and create debt instruments such as T-bills, or T-notes, T-bills, and bonds. And then they sell that debt to individual investors, institutions, sometimes sovereign governments. But the big player here is the federal government. And of course, they have the magic tool where they can create money. They're not printing it on the printing press. Today in the digital age, you just create the numbers on the computer screen and transfer that over to the Treasury, and they buy up a bulk of that debt, by the way. What we need to be careful of and mindful of here moving forward is inflation. If the government doesn't get this right and cut back on some of the stimulus, the PPP, and the Main Street loans, it could lead to inflation. So that's where I encourage folks to keep their eyes on.
Okay. This person is asking, what if the IRS deposited my stimulus to the wrong account? How will I be able to get it? Mark?
Oh, I'm going to also lean to Kevin because he's great with the forms. But if they send it to the wrong account, the bank is expected to send that directly back to the IRS. And then the follow-up, as Kevin has said, the rectification is to use line 30 when you file your 2020 taxes to show that you actually didn't get it. But back during 2020, there was a form that you could do to trace the payment. And Kevin, that form is probably going to stay the same.
I think so. I know basically a lot of people were having trouble getting refunds or trying to get their stimulus. And, I know one of the forms is when you can't get it or whatever and have trouble is a 911 form, which involves the taxpayer advocate assistance, trying to track that down as well. And of course, the online assistance, I know there's a number too you can call, and I can give that to Tanya to put online, that you can actually talk to an IRS person about your stimulus payment. So.
All right. And then this last question says, my son is 18. I claim him as a dependent, but he also files. Will a stimulus check go to him or me? Mark?
It goes back to who is claiming the dependency. So if mom is counting her son as a dependent, she would get the payment amount. Hopefully they're going to decide that's the same amount, $1,400 for all recipients, regardless if you're a dependent or not.
All right, so a dependent is a dependent is a dependent, and if you file and you have them as a dependent, you get the money. All right, thanks so much for your expertise and your time, gentlemen. We appreciate it. Thank you for your questions. If you missed anything, it's going to be in the Two Wants to Know section.